I know we're late. I apologize. We're getting a little tour of the school because we don't get to see all the nitty-gritty details all the time, so it's kind of fun to see. But we're here now, so I will call the meeting to order at 6:39. Gary, we all set? Sorry, I meant to check with you. All right, thank you. First off is the roll call. Keith McGuigan here. Shane Wells.
Here.
Amy Hanovan.
Here.
Brian Winslow.
Here.
David Ruth.
Here.
And the other thing I'll do is just go around the table and have everybody introduce themselves and their role. We'll start on that side today.
Kat Brown, Curriculum Director.
Jocelyn Young, Principal.
Adrian Alford, Assistant Principal.
Scott Rooney, Superintendent.
Amelia Trapp, Interim Secretary.
Thank you very much.
Do we have something to pass around so we get all the guests that are here?
I do have a visitor sheet down there.
Thank you.
There's a sheet right here.
There's a sheet there.
Nicholas Hubbard. It's here to say the pledge.
Yep. All right, well, let's do it then. We have, what's your name again?
Nicholas Hubbard.
Nicholas Hopart. All right, why don't you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? That's the next thing I'm supposed to do.
Pledge allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, we do have bills and manifests going around somewhere?
There, I have them here.
Okay.
Let's get started.
And I just want to say welcome to our first ever student representative. I'm sorry, it was Nicholas?
Yep.
Nicholas Hobart. I didn't write that
H-U-L or
down.
H-O?
How is it spelled?
H-O-B-A-R-T.
H-O-B. You got that? Hobart. So Nick, is there anything you would like to tell the board while we're here, while you're here, about our school or?
Yeah, I gotta say his teachers here are excellent. Yeah, I don't think you guys could do anything better. Just leave school.
Great. I've heard that you're one of the more positive kids around here, and I can see why now. So.
Yeah, he helped teachers a lot by bringing down the envelopes.
Yep. Nice. Cool.
Kindergartners.
Yeah. So what do you do with the kindergartners? I've heard you hustle them up, get them into their classroom, and bring them to where they're supposed to go, or yeah.
Supposed to help the kid named Josh get to his homeroom.
Great.
He's always just been hanging out with his sister. I can't do anything about it. I don't really want to anyone's doing so. Let's go with it.
Well, great. Thank you for your positivity. Thank you for being here and helping us with the pledge. Does anybody else on the board have any questions?
No, I'll just say Nick was nominated for this honor by our school nurse, Mrs. Krockmal. She noted that he is very helpful to younger students, that he is very helpful to teachers as well. He has a sunny disposition. I would add that he is one of the few middle school students that regularly says hello to me, asks me how I am, wishes me a happy weekend, and always has a smile on his face. So we are very happy to have Nick as part of our school community.
That's one of the first things I get to experience in the morning is him saying hello to me. It's the thing I look forward to most in the morning. I love seeing him come by and asking me how I'm doing.
Cool. That's great. Do you have any questions for us or anything like that?
No,
No. We do most of the boring stuff, so. Well, thanks for coming. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Nick.
Bye-bye.
Good job, Nick.
Go Patriots. Yeah, we could put them up on here, can't we? You guys are computer geniuses. We could keep the sound on.
All right, we have no, I don't think for agenda adjustments, I don't think we have anything to move around other than, I don't think we have any need for non-public session. Right?
Nope.
No non-public session, so in the beginning at least.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, Nick.
Yeah, you guys got no school tomorrow.
Okay. Is there any opening public comment? No. All right, any board members want to take this opportunity to address the board? No. All right, we will close the opening public comment session then and move on to our consent agenda. We have our board minutes from last meeting, starting on page 4.
Make a motion to approve the board minutes of 9/20/18, public.
Just want to say they're really well done, detailed board minutes.
They are.
Lord. Do you want a pin flag?
Oh, we have to do a pin
I have
flag.
about 100 of them, so.
Oh, thank you. Sorry, I should have done that pin flag. That was part of the thing. Next time. We're new at this.
We're learning, yeah.
You need
Right.
a second.
I'll second that. Nobody else is gonna. Any discussions or corrections needed for the minutes?
Very well done.
A little detailed, but are they accurate?
I feel as though they're well done and accurate.
It's usually the way it goes.
Were you even here? Oh, you were.
I was here. Says he was.
All right, cool. All in favor of approving the minutes as written then?
Aye.
Any
Make a
opposed?
motion. Make-
One abstention?
Two
Two
abstentions.
abstentions, so motion carries 3-0 with Mr. Wells and Ms. Hanovan abstaining.
Motion to approve the non-public minutes of 9/20/18.
I'll second that motion.
You have these?
I have a correction.
Very little.
Wait, for the non-public, what was that?
I have a correction.
Mr. Ruth, and who seconded for the non-public?
Page 11.
On page 11, can we just take out assistant after my name?
Nope.
Maybe you would.
Any other corrections? All in favor of approving the minutes as amended?
Aye.
All right, any opposed, any abstaining?
3-0 again?
Yep.
Or 3-3?
3-0 with 2 abstentions.
Yep.
Okay, that's all of our minutes. Oh, I guess that's supposed to be consent agenda. Oh, well, we did it separately. Student services report.
Apologize for Mr. Byrne. Yesterday, I had a stomach flu, and he had to cover the Nottingham meeting, and then this afternoon, he started to look a little pale, so I called your chair and said, I'll present for him, I want to send him home. So, Mr. Byrne is at home. I've told him he can't watch the Patriots game, he's to be sick. No. But his student services report, I'll probably add a little to it. He is working hard with Jocelyn at developing your special ed budget, and that I expect to have into ADS next week. And then I will review the budget as a whole before it comes to you. Mrs. LaValle, and he attended your NHASEA meeting and your NHSAA Curriculum Assessment and Instruction 2-day workshop. We have season tickets, so we try to rotate the workshops. So I went to the School Boards Association joint workshop at the New Hampshire School Administrators yesterday, and he went to the curriculum instruction the week before. He's given you your census with your changes from last month, so you can see Northwood is -3, total special ed is -3. Your 504 numbers are down right now, and your homeless numbers are down, but again, it's the beginning of the year, so things will change as time goes on.
So that homeless number, does that reflect people graduating and moving out of district? Is it a combination of everything, or people actually coming off the homeless list? Because I know once you're on there, it's kind of hard to get off.
Well, I try to keep myself separate from the homeless process as your superintendent. So you have a building liaison, and then you have your SAU liaison for McKinney-Vento. That is probably a combination of a lot of factors. I do know at the elementary level, you had at least one that secured permanent housing. You have to remember, so when a kid's homeless, they can stay in their school of origin, which is here, but once they secure stable housing and the school year ends, they go to school where they live. So you've had some changes in your census there. At the high school level, I don't believe you had any homeless students to start the year. Generally, I would know about that. Ms. McDonald, do you have anything to add?
I think most of the number going down is students moving.
Thank you. I guess you know who the homeless liaison is at the elementary school.
Figured it out.
Any other questions I can try to answer for you?
We're good? All right, if nobody has anything else, we will move on then. Next up is our principal's report.
Good evening. Our report begins on page 13. In the first section, we just detailed out some of the professional learning that our staff is undergoing. We're really trying to build capacity within the school to learn from one another, rather than seeing professional development as something that always occurs externally. And so to that end, we have 2 meetings a month. One is a faculty meeting with all professional staff here together in the same room. And then the third Monday of the month, we have vertical PLC meetings. So that's when grade spans get together. So K1 and 2 might get together, or 1, 2, and 3, so that grade levels have an opportunity to align curriculum vertically and make sure that we have consistency across grade levels. So those meetings have begun. We reviewed this past Monday, we reviewed our last year's assessment results, which you'll hear about in a few moments from Ms. Brown, and started that process of thinking about how we can raise our students' achievement, both on those school tests and in general, because we know that the New Hampshire assessment is not the be-all, end-all of measuring our students' achievement. Tomorrow we have a professional development day. George Edwards from NEASC will be here to meet with the faculty in the morning to go over the self-study process, and then he will meet with the leadership team for another couple of hours. And then we'll spend some time in the afternoon learning more about standards-based report cards. The supervision and evaluation process is underway. The initial step to that is staff members develop professional goals for the year, and then they meet with their direct supervisor to have those goals approved. And we had provided since we have so many new staff this year, we had done an after-school session on sort of what the expectations are around those goals. That was very well received, because it is confusing. And so I think that helped to clear up a lot of confusion. People may have even been overcomplicating things a little bit. So there's actually been some enthusiasm and energy around goal setting this year. In the past, it's felt more like a chore. And it probably still feels a little bit like a chore, but there's been more energy, enthusiasm. People are setting really rigorous goals. I commonly say I would much rather people set really high, ambitious goals and not meet them than set a low goal just to say, yeah, I did that. So Adrian and I, Mr. Alford and I have started those meetings and have had some great conversations with staff already. And then one other thing for professional learning, we will start in 2 weeks is grade level PLC meetings. So that's a meeting during the day that is covered by related arts teachers. So kids K through 5 have an additional related arts time while their teachers are meeting. And then 6 through 8, the related arts teachers cover the classrooms, but they continue working in their content areas. And those meetings are an opportunity for the team to get together and discuss things related to these 4 essential questions of what do we want our kids to know? How will we know that they've learned it? What do we do if they're not learning it? Or what do we do if they already know it? And this year, that will be a real opportunity for us to start looking at student work and looking at it through the lens of standards-based assessment. How is the work that our students are doing indicating their progress towards mastery of standards? So we're excited to get those started. The next section is just an update on committees. The wellness, most committees have had 1 or 2 meetings so far this year. Some have been ambitious and had more than that. The wellness committee met. We have mostly brand new members. Ms. Hannah Van has joined us. And so at our first meeting, we reviewed some of the activities that we traditionally do and decided which of those to continue, and then brainstormed some ideas of new things. One thing that you'll see or already saw evidence of in a recent Laker was we're going to put more educational material out to families in the Laker. So we saw one a couple weeks ago, and you'll see another one tomorrow. Safety committee has met once. Lieutenant Wells is on that. And we have reviewed also previous activities and set some goals and priorities for this year. The literacy committee is well underway and is already starting to plan author visits. The really popular book buddy schedule has been set, and also starting to think about how to increase sort of a culture of learning and loving of reading in the building. Science committee is small but mighty and is working hard to help staff understand our new science curriculum standards, science curriculum documents related to the NGSS standards, and also helping to unpack our new science program K through 5, which is STEM Scopes. And Mrs. Lenharth will be providing some professional development around that for staff tomorrow as well. And then the leadership team had its very first meeting of the year this week. We were delayed because our first meeting would have conflicted with open house. So we had a jam-packed agenda. We didn't get to everything, but we started the conversation about looking at the parent survey that we had conducted last year, and taking that data and figuring out what we want to do about it and how we want to share it out. So we will have that to share with you coming soon. Also started the process of setting some goals for the year and talking about the strategic plan and how we as a leadership team are helping to move that forward. And then I'll let you talk about Universal.
Good evening, everybody. So the Universal team had our first whole school assembly, kind of discussing with the staff and kids again, just what PBIS is, what our vision and goal is for the year with that. And our first real focus as a whole school initiative in October is safety. So what does it look like to be safe in the classroom or the hallway or the bus, the playground? So when kids do something, and anybody can recognize any grade level student, we have little tickets that has our Laker monster in the front of it. It's getting a little piece of pride. So if a kid does something, is recognized for being safe, we have a little lake that was designed by Mrs. Lagasse. It's hanging in the cafeteria. And so when a kid earns it, we collect them, we put it up there. And when we collect, there's enough for each kid. At the end of it, they will get like I don't want to call it a costume, but a dress-up day. And we'll recognize their hard work in keeping it safe, and then the next month we'll have another initiative. So the assembly went very well. The students were fantastic. They came down orderly. They left orderly. I think it was well received by everybody. So we look forward to having more of those.
And then one last thing that did not make it into the report in time, and I apologize for that. I'm trying not to bring you guys stuff and asking for your approval, but it's time sensitive because our 8th grade advisors are very enthusiastic and want to start fundraising next week. So Mrs. Labrie and Mrs. Gorley are asking for board approval to start a Little Caesars Pizza Kit program next week. With so it would run 10/9 through 10/12, and then the kits would come in the 19th, and the proceeds of that would go to the class trip. So we are hoping for board approval for that tonight, and that is all we have for you.
Pizza.
Yes, yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve the fundraiser for the 8th grade, the pizza fundraiser.
Second?
Any discussion on that?
The dates again?
So the selling would occur next week, the 9th through the 12th, and then the kits would be delivered on the 19th.
Seems like a short time.
Yeah, I'm glad they're jumping right into this because we're running late for this, so it's good.
Any of you guys ever had those kits?
Oh, yeah.
They're good.
They're good.
Breadsticks
Yeah.
are fantastic.
So we'll put you down for how many?
5.
Give me the list. No, because I'd eat the 5. There's no one home with me. Well, my wife, but you won't eat it.
All right, all in favor? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, and I will have a much more extensive list of additional fundraisers for you at the next meeting.
All right, great, thank you. Do we have any other questions for our building principal? Seeing none, thank you, Ms. Young. I will move on to the curriculum director's report.
Good evening. The results from last spring's New Hampshire State Assessment System, the SAS results are in. We can see that we have made some progress, but we also have quite a bit of some areas where we can grow. We are taking action steps based on the data that we received. We're looking at implementing instructional strategies that include asking open-ended questions and making sure that students are developing their critical thinking skills during class, which is important because as they develop their critical thinking skills during class and discussion, that will help them think about what they need to write about. So we're making connections. Hopefully, we'll be working on that making those connections between the reading and the speaking and the writing. We're going to be collaborating with teachers to integrate more writing across the curriculum. The more students write, the more practice they have, the better they will do. So that could be not just in ELA, but also there are places in science and social studies where students can be writing, especially writing informational text. So that will be another area of focus. Using and analyzing common assessments and common writing rubrics to score student writing pieces is another area that we'll be looking at, That will also be part of the PLC work that teachers will be engaging in. Also using the interim assessments that have been developed by the DOE, so that way students can practice taking the assessments and teachers can better understand the assessments. Because we know that the more that students are exposed to those assessments, the better they tend to do. And we're also looking at implementing a school-wide writing program next year. So that way, if everybody is using common strategies, just like with PBIS, we're seeing that growth within the building now. If we begin implementing a writing program that's vertically aligned, then over the course of the next 2 to 3 years, we should see a lot of growth in student writing. Teachers are using common strategies. In math, the results are better, but again, there's still room for improvement. Action steps based on the math results include making sure that instruction for all units occurs within a reasonable time frame. This was an issue last year, especially with the odd schedule that we had at the beginning of last year. It may have impacted some of the instruction at the beginning of the year. Coaching teachers to use a concrete pictorial abstract progression whenever possible so that students are able to access the content. That progression is considered to be best practice in math instruction. So making sure that all teachers are using that will be another area where I could certainly work as an instructional coach and help teachers with that. Focusing on instructional strategies that help students develop their ability to reason mathematically is another area where we can work. Common problem-solving strategies throughout the building would be helpful. So we'll be working on that. Working with teachers to ensure that all instruction is based on the standards for their current grade level. When students are struggling, sometimes teachers like to fall back on content that students should have mastered from the previous grade level, when what they should be doing is teaching what students need to learn this year and finding ways to provide remediation at the same time. So we need to make sure that we're addressing any student weaknesses, but also moving forward in the curriculum, so that way students are prepared for next year's standards. Again, making sure that students are familiar with the testing format that the state will be using will be another area of focus, making sure that students are taking practice assessments, and teachers could also use some of those interim assessments and modular assessments to see how students are currently doing on this year's material. Implementing common assessments, just like with ELA. Common assessments in math will help teachers better understand what instructional strategies can be used to make sure that students are making maximum achievement. We did some training Monday with K through 2 teachers for the AMC math assessments. Those are well received. Out of the 6 teachers, I think 3 of them were interested in using data from those assessments for their goals this year. So that would help with the K through 2 alignment to the 3rd grade curriculum. And that will also make sure that students have the number sense foundation that they will need in 3rd grade, which is really the foundation for not just 3rd grade, but it builds up into the middle school level. So when students are struggling at the middle school level, we know that usually it's because that they have some weakness that wasn't addressed in either grade 3 or prior to that. And then integrating math practice into lessons in order to strengthen the students' computational skills so that they can think with numbers and work with them flexibly and develop the flexible thinking skills that they'll need in order to succeed in algebra. For science, you can see the results. 8th grade is looking pretty good with regards to the state, but I'm still thinking there's room for improvement. Implementing the STEM Scopes program in grades K through 6 will help with the vertical alignment and making sure that we're aligned to the next generation standards. And then using the 5E structure of the next generation science standards, the engage, explore, explain, elaborate, and evaluate in all science units. That's something that teachers will be working on developing over the year too. I've been meeting with multiple teachers in order to discuss ideas for their professional goals. So that has led to a lot of discussion, which then those teachers will be going to Mr. Alford and Ms. Young in order to further develop them. But again, there's a lot of positive energy and a lot of really deep discussion that's happening around teaching and learning and how to make sure that we are using data to make sure that we are getting every student to where we want them to be. The AMC assessment training did take place on October 1st, and I'll be offering parent information sessions on the standards-based report card on Thursday, October 11th, and again on the 12th.
Will that be in the Laker, the information?
Yep, we'll be putting that in the lake of
Okay.
this Friday.
I had some people asking me about it just recently, so they knew that was coming. So these test scores, are these based on last spring's
Right.
tests?
Yep.
Right, these aren't the ones that were just taken just now, right? Okay. And I find it hard to just, I understand that they're a different test than previous, so we can't do some comparisons back, but it'd be great to see how we're doing compared to the state and back, right? Like we can't look at last year's and say the proficiency numbers should be going up or whatever, but we could look at how we did compared to the state average this year versus how we did last year. Maybe even the year before. I think it'd be great to see progression of the same cohort groups going through. It's just information I'd like to see.
Okay.
I don't know if that's possible, to get at some point. I don't know if the board would like to see that kind of stuff
Yes.
too, but,
Yep.
so we may ask if there's
Right.
anything we can look at from that point of view to see for comparison wise, like cohort groups year over year compared to the state. Just, see how we're doing from that point of view. 'Cause it's hard to tell just looking at this, obviously.
Okay.
Mr. Ruth?
On that line, that's kind of what I was thinking. When I look at the science test and I see that just the 5th and the 8th, are we going to track that 5th grade so when they get to the 8th grade, we have a really comparison? And that brings me back to what, another thing I was going to talk about is, not talk about, but just bring up a question. I've noticed over the years that we have a grade, and I'll use maybe a 4th grade in reading, and they, 5th grade, doesn't matter, but they're really high, or they look good. If for some 4th grade, they just look, but by the time they get to the 7th, they drop down. If there've been studies done, they become almost teenagers in 7th grade. It just seemed like over the years, every time we looked at these tests, they do great, this group, and then by the time they got up in there, they would have been falling down or something. They didn't keep going up all the time.
Right, I think that's why-
Which I guess I would expect that they would go up, but I know
Well, the test changed too.
that's
every year,
impossible.
right. The test changed too, so the tests get
Yeah.
harder and harder as they're going up too.
Right.
But that's, I agree with you, and that's why I think
It's
comparing to
a
the.
tracking program
Yeah.
of, here they were in 1999, here they are now, and okay, we're seeing a up or a down, or we see a good. My other question would be, are our children going to be able to take like last year's tests, like sometime if they take it next May, maybe in January, February, March, they'll kind of have that test from last year, so they get used to taking those type of tests?
Not quite. So the test is computer-based, so it's not something that we have on paper that we can just copy and hand out. However, the interim tests that the DOE offers are a shorter version, and they're specific to a standard. So those are opportunities for kids to practice a few questions at a time in a format that's similar to the longer test.
Not necessarily teaching them to the test day in and day out, but every once in a while you throw out, here's what a test looks like, so they kind of get used to it. Because I used to hear
Right.
so much about kids were getting scared of tests and everything. It's like, doesn't make sense if they have them all the time and.
And it's
should be
great
able to
data for
just ready to
teachers
do
too,
it.
because
Yeah.
then the teachers can see
Okay.
how the kids are responding and teach to misconceptions. So not teach to the test, but sometimes vocabulary on the test is different than what we use in the classroom, and it helps teachers to realize that I should be talking about story problems and word problems, not just word problems, that type of thing.
But is it possible then, we'll go back to the first point by Keith, that this time next year, we would get a report and it would say, here's the 4th grade from 2000 and whatever year it is,
Yeah, look,
18, here it is now in 2019, but we can see.
But also track next to
Somehow
the, next to the
tracking
state
them.
average, really, because
Right.
because if there was something like you said, like you get to 7th grade and things get harder. harder, and, you know, we should see that dip in the New Hampshire average as well, right? And so
Right.
We do
Exactly.
have an old, so last year we had done a presentation with sort of trends over time, and we could certainly revamp that presentation and add this in, just with the caveat that it is two different tests.
Yeah, totally understandable, yeah, as far as that goes.
And you might have one grade that's every year, they just seem to be going up and up. For some reason, there's one grade of smart kids,
Could
but
be, right?
whatever,
Yeah,
yeah.
that'd be interesting to see.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
The other question I have is, I know this is just a summary of proficiency numbers, but with the, you know, competency-based skill sets that we're moving towards, are these tests broken up to give you competency-based information? You know, so that you can say, you know, they're having problem, you know, word problems are, you know, is scored at this, and regular computation is scored, you know, at this level, and, you know, I know we're only seeing a summary right now, but I'm just wondering if the results that you get, are they broken down further?
So we can look at individual student data and see what the question was and how they answered it, and then how most kids or how other kids answered it. So in that sense, yes, we can get a sense of what standards
That
they
sounds
have and
very-
don't. It's cumbersome.
Yeah, that sounds
though.
very hard, yeah.
So I think for that, to that end, we're really going to be relying on the performance tasks that teachers develop and administer in the classrooms.
Okay.
You want to add something?
That was the perfect answer.
Would we get the similar results from Co-Brown when they have these state tests? I mean, would we get from the superintendent, not from you, but would they usually,
Co-Brown will give you an assessment of their SRI scores,
okay.
and I believe, well, they changed that last year too. So last year, they took the SAT and then they took the SAS, is that right? I would have to get back to you. But you
Okay.
do get your assessment scores from Co-Brown.
All right, I don't know, I guess my observation would be, is it broken down, or we see how the Northwood kids are doing versus the other 4 towns, I don't know if
Believe it
they
is.
break it down. Just curious.
Yes.
No extra work for you.
Yes,
Excellent. Music to my ears.
Just wanted to give you guys, I don't want Dave and I to suck all the air out of the room.
Yeah, I'm a little curious. I don't know how much to get into it now. I'm curious about specifically with 5th grade, where they seem to be kind of an anomaly grade with the data that we're here. Is there, I don't know if we can talk about any unique situations or whatever, and I certainly don't want to, bring up any individuals or anything like that, but is there anything that we should, is some conversation about 5th grade, that group in particular, happening, or, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the reason I want to see the trends too. I mean, is this a trend, or is this just a blip, or?
And now in the 6th grade, so
Right.
we should be able to see.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
Right, that's why you need to look at your cohort data, because it's hard to extrapolate. I mean, is it a low group? Is it a group that needs this? Is it a group that needs that?
Yeah,
So you gotta look at both pieces of incomplete data, too.
right.
You know, I'll remind that we wanna look for 3 years of data before we just start drawing any fast conclusions on year 1.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we can still look at the past years.
Yep.
We just have to look at the differentials instead, because
You
we
need to
can't
look
go
at the, yeah.
the exact by the
What
exact
you'll
numbers,
have to
you
do
know?
is look at the proficiency levels,
Right.
right?
Right, even though it's a different test.
Right,
compared to
because
the
if
state
you
average.
line all the tests up next to each other, it's gonna go
Yeah,
3, 4, if you do it by scaled score, 3, 4, 5, 6, because the scaled scores increase per grade. So you're better off to look at the actual 1 through 4s, and then look at the state proficiency levels and make those determinations. So it's hard because you don't have, it's no fault of these folks, you don't have a complete record for 3 years.
Yeah,
other
right.
than Proficiency levels.
are we spending less time on testing with the new tests than we had been with the Smarter Balance tests?
Yes, they just shortened them considerably.
That's good, I guess. Anyone else? We're good?
Thank you.
Thank you, Ken.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
I do have one thing I forgot, if I could.
Sure.
Sorry. Since we have so many staff, a few of us had gotten together and talked about ways to help bring some cohesion and a sense of community, and one of the ways to do that is for people to know names and faces. So Ms. McDonald is actually going around taking pictures of grade level teams, the administrative team, the food service folks, and we'll have those up with labels in the staff room, and one of the groups that we would like a photograph of is the school board. So at some point tonight, we would love it if you would gather, we could have a movement
You look
break and you
fine.
could gather and have your picture taken. Just put that out there.
Have the school pictures been taken, they haven't been
Yes.
taken, they've been taken
Yep,
already?
last week.
Oh, wow. Because in the past, I was gonna ask, in the past, they used to, the school board members would go in, so they would get get the same.
We
thing.
will let you know when makeup day is. How about that?
Just as a, and then they walk, if you came in to visit or something, you had your,
Already lost, Shane already ran away.
I can
so.
Photoshop
Knew it
mine.
was coming. He had a premonition.
Turn yours in from 20 years.
I can be younger.
Yeah.
Just before we move on, I just want to make clear, Mr. Rooney, the board has kind of made a request for data in a particular format.
Past testing data by cohort
I just
group.
want to make sure you're all set with what we're asking for, and if you have any questions on that.
Yep.
I don't know if I like the word cohort, that sounds bad to me, but
Grade.
that's
By
okay.
grades.
I have that. So
I know
we'll
you
just
do.
add to it.
I don't even really need to, I know. I'm just gonna put it on the next agenda, is that okay?
Yep, that's why I just want to make sure we knew. Okay. We good then? Good. We'll move on to policies. Starting in our packet on page 18 is our policy cover sheet.
You have two first readings left over from the July 26th Policy Committee meeting. Data management and computer security, email and internet communications. I'll tell the board that these are updated as of July 26th, but now there's been a change. And that change is going to take a long time to work through. So my recommendation is that if you agree to put these on for second reading, and we'll get these approved, and then you're gonna have some budgetary implications coming up with the new data security RSA that was passed, HB 1612, I believe. And so I may, when it comes to budget time, ask you to put some money aside for an audit. Other districts are doing that as a way to respond to this. Now, there's different thoughts out there that we're waiting for a TA from the state, but we're hearing we're gonna get that or we're not, so we're not totally sure yet, but your policy is gonna change
Now,
drastically.
if the law's already passed, what are we waiting for, the Department of Ed?
We're waiting for guidance. We're waiting for guidance. There's a new policy out, but it's the procedure that goes with the policy that the tech, so did I tell you that I had all the tech directors from across the SAU meet, and they're gonna come up with a template for data management? And then each school will be able to use that to develop their document, but it's going to be a long process.
Okay.
Would anyone like to make a motion to move these two policies to second reading?
As said, as moved.
So policy EH and policy EHAA.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion on these? Or edits we want to look at? Any guidance we want to give them for the second reading?
No, sounds like we're gonna be changing and adjusting it anyway.
In that case, all in favor of moving these to second reading?
All right.
Opposed? Sure.
For?
Is that a yes?
Yes, please.
Okay, so 5-0. All right, then we have policy JJC, JJCD, and JRA that are here for second reading, so they are up for adoption.
So I got a question.
Why don't we make a
Remove
motion
them?
first?
Yeah,
and then,
Okay.
we can talk about
Make a
that.
motion to final approval.
Yep. Motion to adopt.
Adopt is a better word.
You want to do all of them at once?
It's page 18, yeah.
All right, so, Mr. Wells, your motion is to adopt policy JJC, JIC, JICD, and JRA.
Yes.
Is there a second? All right. What's up?
There was, Page 35, F. Subcommittee of a board. We don't have that, right? That's something like if we wanted to create one?
Correct.
Okay. And there was something about long-term suspensions on page 34. I forget what it was, though. Hold on, I gotta read it.
Didn't we change some things here?
Yeah, they have some blanks in them.
Right, and I wrote those, but it was supposed to be principal under 1,
Yep, and superintendent.
superintendent
Yep.
under 2, and then the rest was okay, I believe. What was your question, Mr. Ross?
I thought there was one other place where we had the superintendent there.
So continue to show.
Oh, this needs to be superintendent's decision. Right there.
Just clarification on paragraph, number 2, last sentence, it says superintendent issues the original short-term suspension, then the school board may designate another person to continue the short-term suspension and issue the long-term suspension. Can you just clarify what that means?
Where are you? You're under
So page
2.
34, 2, yeah, last
Paragraph?
sentence,
First paragraph of 2.
first paragraph, it says blank superintendent. If you go down, it says superintendent issued the original short-term suspension, right? That's part of like the sentence before that. But then it says that, then the school board may designate another person to continue the short-term suspension and issue the long-term suspension.
Right.
What is this, can you just clarify what that
What it
means?
means is, if I issue a short-term suspension and then go to turn that into a long-term suspension, the board would have to designate Ms. Young to do the short-term extension,
Okay.
suspension.
I gotcha.
We'll avoid that ever happening for you. The board would have to designate Ms. Young to issue the short-term suspension, and then I would issue the long-term suspension, and then it would go to the board.
Okay.
Generally, I don't think, were you here the last meeting?
That was, no.
So I issue a letter each year to Jocelyn, giving her the authority to both of these, to issue short terms up to 10 days. And then from there, if it goes to me and I have a hearing, I can extend it to 20. So you'll probably never see that. The only time that might happen is, let's say that Ms. Young and Mr. Alford were out of the building and I was covering a student issue and issued a short-term suspension that would turn into a long-term. That's the only time you would see that.
So any other questions?
Okay, so we are gonna make corrections to fill in the blanks, as it were, right?
1, 2, 3.
Any other discussion on these? All right, so we have a motion to adopt these as amended now, I guess. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Motion carries unanimously. All 3.
And then that's him adding the question mark superintendent.
Yeah. What page was that on, Mr. Reader? Remember?
I'm gonna give her the page as soon as I write my notes.
Page 34. There's one of the spots, I can't remember where that is. The third spot. So this is principal, superintendent.
I got it.
Yeah.
Can I just have that back at the end, Amelia, so I know what changes that Ms. West made?
Sure, you don't mind?
I'll just make a note of it.
You got like red glitter on your forehead.
So, yeah, that's the part too.
Is that
Oh,
toward
you
the
were
school?
before
you
this.
picked
Must
up
have
on?
been for something up from the school.
Yeah.
Hey, what I do in my private time is not your business.
Is that why you just cut out?
Okay, we're gonna move on. The superintendent's report.
Just give me a minute. We have a personnel report on page 49.
They sparkle.
That's gonna be my American Gladiator name.
And they are for,
They can take it back.
She's
Thank you.
upset.
and those are for coaches stipend positions. For winter sports.
Let's take over. You wanna
This is Chris.
make a motion to accept these nominations?
Did he
Someone needs-
announce who they are or what we're doing?
Mark Blatt is your boys A basketball coach, Don Dodge is the girls A basketball, and Don Dodge is your girls B basketball.
Make a motion to approve the positions as read.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second?
Left off
Any discussion on this?
Boys B team, are we having one, or are we just waiting to have somebody
Left on base.
be a coach?
We have one, you will have a nomination at your next meeting.
BT?
Yep.
Okay, do their A and B practice at different times?
I believe Mr. Dodge is planning to have the girls practice together, and then boys will likely practice separately, but I don't know that for sure.
What about games or separate times then? I mean, like, I was trying to figure out why he can do both, so, I guess. How can he do both A and B?
Don?
Yeah.
Because usually, so boys B and A play at the same time, and girls B and A play at the same time. And only time they play differently is like, so if we're playing Nottingham,
Yeah.
like we'll play Nottingham at home with girls, and boys will be at Nottingham away at boys. So, but the A and B stay together on the boys. So the boys and girls never play. Boys A and B girls, I mean, boys A and girls A never play together at the same day,
I'm asking about the A and B girls.
because they play in the same day,
They play back to back.
back to back, yes.
But you're talking about practices, is there enough time to get both practices in?
That makes sense, yeah, I mean, they can practice together, I get that. I just want to make sure, like, you know, if the team, they weren't playing, A was playing one place, B was playing somewhere else.
And then when there are times, it's
how
more
we
like
do
the
both.
high school, if for some reason one team is short, you can always adjust,
You can swing.
you can swing. That's why I always wanted
Yeah.
to have a varsity and junior varsity instead of A and B, which would line up with all the other schools.
I was thinking C and D, but A and B works.
As long as no one sues us because they don't make the A team and they won't play on the B team.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
I can change it so when I go like this.
Next thing is, last time I passed out a hard copy of the strategic planning checklist, put it in your packet this time. If I might make a suggestion to the board, I think Ms. Young and I should sit down with Ms. Brown and Mr. Alford and go through that checklist and document what we think is a priority, not in stone, but then bring it back to the board for discussion and changes if we want to make to it. Does that make sense?
Does, thank you.
That does, yeah.
So hopefully that'll be the next meeting, it might be the meeting, I've got it on the list.
Okay.
The preschool lease, added it to your timeline, your, I've attached a copy of the lease, and that's as important as your history of increases, because you need to make a decision about the preschool lease, so I can work that into another budget.
Other budget. Kidding. So what other budget?
Yes, the preschool.
Kidding.
Has this lease changed over the years? I mean, the rules hasn't, so same one we did years ago, we did a few ones.
Yeah, yeah.
You get my signature on it from 2 years ago.
Can we figure out the cost increase of 2% a year, or do we have some type of fancy due to the?
I just gave you what you've done 2% a year.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what I put in the other budget was 2% a year, just not because that was your decision, but that's what you've done historically. And if you can change, you can do what you see fit.
Well, the SAU building, was that set up so that was, I'm gonna say coal or something, but it wasn't that. There was some type of rate, whether the inflationary rate, there was some standard that they were going by so that if it went.
Yeah, the SAU lease.
Couldn't raise more than something?
They
Okay,
use a pretty complicated.
yeah. This is fine, nice and
Well,
simple.
it's up to you what you want to do. I mean, the strange thing is that you divide the lease by 3.
Yep.
So
We
whatever
pay 1/3
increase you
of it.
put in, you're going to experience yourself.
I'll have a question afterwards about that.
So what are we looking for tonight? Do you want us to approve the contract and decide on the rate tonight? So that you can
And
get
how
it-
many years?
So you can get it drawn up?
If you could.
Yep.
And how many years do we want to keep the lease
I think we
going?
only do it 1 year at a time, right? I thought it's
2 years?
2
3
2
years. 2 or 3?
Oh, yeah,
You
that's
did
right.
two.
We did 2. Yep.
Well, you did 2% a year.
So 2 years.
I am comfortable with doing that again.
I'll make a motion to accept the lease agreement, approve the lease agreement with the 2% each year for a 2-year contract.
Second?
Any discussion, other discussion?
Don't need a discussion tonight, but I would like to bring up, I wish there was a way that we could have all that, any rental income we receive would go into our maintenance budget, instead of having to put a warrant article every year to put in 10,000 in it. We could have any rental income we receive. I know you're saying no, but I always think there's gotta be a way around.
I mean, our budget
There's
doesn't work
not,
like that.
Mr. Booth. There's not. I
There's
mean,
no-
you gotta,
Just seems so simple that,
you have your revenues
Right.
and you have your expenditures. We
but
need
other
to-
town departments have it so that if revenue comes in, it goes into a certain spot. That's all I'm asking for, is if we got revenue, even our own $7,000 we put in, so we would get $21,000 or a little more every year to go into that savings we have, now I can't think of the name, the
You're talking about the
maintenance.
capital reserve?
Capital
fund?
reserve. So we would never have to ask the town to keep, oh, we need 10,000 or 20,000 to put in.
I still think we would need to do that with a warrant article or something. It's-
That's all right, I'm just bringing it up, it just doesn't make sense that other sections of town get money come in, and then it goes into a different fund. All right,
Yeah,
I
but-
don't want to big discussion.
But every year, we have a warrant article that says that to move, to deposit X amount of money into the cemetery fund,
Right.
or deposit X money. We could,
Take that money and we put it in there anyway, right?
No, you
well,
can't.
we could, but I think we'd
With
have to
a
do
warrant
it with a warrant article
That's what I mean.
every year,
Right, I would just eliminate the warrant article.
Oh,
Every
and
year,
just
you'd be
take-
That's what
putting
I'm not-
20 grand in.
That's why I'm not so
Would be
sure
work
we could do that. I
Okay,
bet we'd have to do it.
I'm
for a
bringing it
warrant
up.
article,
But the good news is,
Okay.
is that your revenue is calculated into your school district revenues, right?
but- Right,
And then that offsets your
Tax rate.
taxes.
right.
At the end of the day, when all those things close.
And if we ask for 21,000, that gets back into the tax rate. So, anyway, I didn't want a big
Right,
discussion.
Right.
All right, so the board is ready to approve the contract as written for 2 years, 2% raise each year. So we'll go
Just
forward
real
with that.
quickly,
Yep.
having never gone through the preschool contract before, being a first-term
Yep.
board member, it
Now's
looks
the
like
time to
we've
do it.
done 2% historically. Has there ever been a problem with that? Is there any, I mean, you said it's really whatever we want to do, but is there any advice against or any reason to be concerned about a 2% increase?
Only if the costs, we pay the heat and the electricity, keeping the place clean, snow removal. When we calculated all this, which is probably 10 years ago, we figured our 1/3 investment would cover all of those costs. So we were actually getting, 2/3 of it was really profit.
Like, part of it's trying to keep up
So-
with inflation too. I mean,
Yeah.
2% is
Right.
the standard inflation rate. I mean, I think the last few years it actually hasn't been, but that's, it's gonna go up and down some. It's probably gonna go up more soon, but who knows?
What was that first year increase?
15,
$5,600.
was that?
Were you here for that one? Back in 2011, 2012?
We went from 15,400 to
15,400?
Just curious.
Yeah, it was because we built this, the Northwood used funds to build downstairs and to move the pre-K in. They had been paying 15,400 at their other place. They had a church, they were renting a church building in Nottingham. So we honored that we would keep that rate for 1 year because it was already in the budget. So then after that, we said, okay, we're gonna get X amount.
That makes sense.
Okay.
And at this SAU, it does not go by that formula like Stratford pays X amount, and this is separate. This always will be,
Right,
everybody
so-
pays
One
1/3.
third. Right.
So when you see this is new for you, but when you see your preschool numbers, you're fine. So once you approve your preschool budget at the SAU level, right? Then we go back into a very complicated spreadsheet that gives us a 3-year average. And we remove the oldest year and insert next year as the newest year, and then calculate what each district pays. Now, the reason that we do that is so you don't see spikes in your
Right.
right?
Children that come across.
So out of that, let's say the bottom line is $500,000, right? And let's say that last year, your rent was $7,230, because I think that's what it was. So if Northwood's gonna pay $100,000, they're really paying you take that 7,230 out of it. So it's a complicated.
Comes back to
little
us,
thing.
yeah.
However, the rent is not, isn't subject to that formula. The rent is split.
Right, the rent is
One-third,
just
one-third,
split three
one-third.
ways.
Yeah.
So we split the rent 3 ways. We pay tuition
Based on-
as it is based on a
Based on a
3-year
3-year
average.
formula.
Okay, got
Right,
it.
does that make sense?
Yes.
It's a little complicated.
Yep.
All right, so we did have a motion to go ahead with this. Is
Yeah,
all in
we-
favor of that? Oh, sorry.
I made the motion and someone seconded it, right?
Yep.
Amy seconded it, so we're ready for a vote.
Do we want to make, is this going to be an approval to bring back the lease? Or does the board want to approve me to sign it if the joint board agrees to it as well at this time?
Well,
Or should we come back with that?
I already put in all 3 packets, so it's gotta go to
It's going to go to
Northwood, Nottingham, Stratford.
Okay,
Right.
okay, so this
So
is
it'll be
just,
back in your packet.
so this is just
Yeah.
the offer.
You've come up with a number.
I would authorize you to sign the final packet whenever.
Well, that's what I was
all
wondering, if
towns
we
get
should do that
together,
now, but
yeah.
we can do
That's
that.
how we normally
Just
do
put it
it.
in your for board signatures packet.
Okay,
So,
all right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries 5-0.
okay. Then I just have 2 other updates for you. The Commission on School Safety awarded you $100,000 for your school safety grant. Now, they've gone back and forth. They had a cap at the beginning, then they took the cap off, then in this round, they put the cap back on. So you're capped at $100,000. You'll have to spend 20% to do that. Now, what I've done so far is I have an email out to the architect. I'm trying to schedule some time for the architect and Ms. Young and I to sit down and figure out what we can do for security improvements with that money plus your match. So we'll be back in touch about what we
What,
think.
do we have money in the budget for that? We're gonna take that from somewhere else?
Well, you probably have some money that you've set aside for your SRO that you weren't able to hire this year.
It's true.
You also have money, and I don't have the number right now, in your building capital reserve. So you have some options to consider.
Yep, just curious.
I mean, if we're talking 20% of 100,000, it's 20, right? So you're gonna come up with at least 20. And we'll just have to see what the cost of things are and bring it back to you for your consideration. But that's the plan now. If you wanna do something different, let me know.
Is it the cost on we didn't make any decisions yet on the plan or anything we're doing,
No, I think we just got an estimate for,
just an estimate?
Right, you got 2
that
estimates.
cost was
So
far beyond
you
this.
got the estimates. Well, we don't know that yet. The architect had gotten in touch with me right after I filed for the grant. And I said, why don't we wait to go over the estimates until we know whether we get the grant? Because that's going to
okay.
steer, right?
Yeah.
So now it's time for us to go through and make some recommendations to you for you to consider. Because you won't be able to do all of option 2. But, you
Right.
know, if I can just tell you, my at-night thoughts are, we probably, if you left the $30,000 in for paving, in your SIP, and did the sidewalk around, and then held off on the covered canopy, we'll have to see what that looks like, but those are, you know, my sort of superficial, when I can't sleep at night ideas.
Yeah, it'd be great to have like, because maybe we can get another grant next year, right? So if we could do something, we could start and
Or you can warrant it.
continue.
You
Yeah,
can
right.
warrant, you know,
Yeah.
Additional
you
stuff.
can warrant
yeah.
the balance, but, $100,000 is a good start.
Yeah.
Glad we got it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now, does this have to be spent like within a certain time frame?
Yeah, I don't know when, but I think it's next April, August maybe, or April. So we'll want to do something this year, so we don't
It'll have to be
miss
this
that.
year. Yeah.
But
The other question I had was, is it final? I mean, like, it is approved, it's coming in?
I've got
there's
an
no-
email from, Amy Clark sent me an email, I think I told you this, she goes, your request has been approved, but it wasn't clear whether it was Stratford's request or your request, it was both requests, that's the good news, everybody got good news. And as soon as it goes to governor and council, then I'll get an official letter. But it's already gone to the commission, it's already been approved and earmarked, now it just has to go through the.
So there's one more step though that needs to be.
Yeah, it's generally the council's, I haven't seen them deny one,
Okay.
so.
Question?
Yep.
While we're talking about that, we got a bill for $1,600 from
Those
the
are for your-
architects. Is
those-
that
that's-
part of the original package?
That's your third-party estimate that you approved after.
Okay.
1,600 and something?
Yep,
Yeah.
17 or
Yeah,
37 or whatever it was, yeah.
Yep, that's for your estimate.
That's what got us the grant, right? We have that
Well,
estimate, partly.
the estimate wasn't done when I wrote the grant, but
Yeah.
I made my own estimate. And then the only other thing I'm going to update you, superintendents have been meeting regionally, separate from Southeasters, with some districts in southern Maine and also our southeast region in New Hampshire, in an effort to analyze our school calendars. We are now studying a model that's actually going on in my kid's district, and I'll be back to talk to you about that. I don't want to say that I'm going to push for this or this and that. We're doing some research. I'm actually going tomorrow to Marshwood High School to see the benefits of their PD because of their creative calendar. So I want to sort of consider all the angles before I come back, but it is a way to, I think we've come to the conclusion as superintendent regionally that our weather is changing, that we're getting, our storms are a little more severe and shorter duration, and then snow days become a consideration on what to do with those. And so we're looking at some creative ways to respond to that. So I'll be back to talk to you more about that later.
Looking forward to it.
And that's it for me.
If I have any questions for superintendent? All right, thank you very much. On to new business, we do have a discussion scheduled for payroll procedure. Mr. Ruth sent me an email, which is in the packet, I think. And Ernie, I believe you have some information for us on this?
Yeah, I found this on my desk today. Hold on, page 56. So, I made copies to bring with you. With me? Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you.
This one.
So, instead of reading this whole thing, you want to break it down for us?
Like a cover letter,
Well-
probably.
I think first you had a email from a board member talking about signing the manifest and pretty much how difficult that can be and disruptive. And that email was copied to the treasurer, and so now you have your treasurer's response.
So, I agree with the treasurer. The law seems very clear that the treasurer shall have custody of all money belonging to the district and pay out the same only upon orders of the school board or upon orders of the two or more members of the school board empowered by the school board as whole to authorize payments. I think that's pretty clear. But what's not clear to me is what is
A signature.
orders of the school board.
Right,
Right,
that's what
and that could be,
It says or.
Upon orders, if we had
Right.
an order and a policy made, I would guess we could come up with a different way of doing this.
Can I
And
make
I brought that up with Marjorie a couple of years ago, because they're like, this is stupid. Why can't we do digital signatures? You know, something like that,
Yeah.
where, signature's a signature. If it's a digital signature and I sign it digitally and send it back to you, that's as good as
We
a
now have the
signature as it would be.
capability? Of course we do.
I agree.
right?
How do the other districts do this? Because I know that they don't have the same problem.
Or I authorize someone to sign for me. As we do a committee, we'll say, we entrust,
What is Plan B? If 5 of us can't show up for some reason, and this summer we had 3 away on vacation at the same time, so it got kind of close. What is Plan B? In other words, somebody's not gonna get their pay.
Does this go for all people who have to get paychecks, or just the people who don't get direct deposit?
Right.
Okay.
That's right, so that doesn't make sense. 99% of the people can get a check without any signature at all, and 1%, which is probably anywhere from 2 to 5 people, hold up the whole process.
What I'm wondering is, can the board just have a standing order to pay the paycheck warrant?
Becomes a legal interpretation, and every rule that's written is,
Right.
10 lawyers read it 10 different ways.
But we're only gonna go to one, okay?
Okay, good. Remind them who pays.
What do the other districts do for this?
Did they just bring them to the meetings?
Then we bring them to the meetings. You guys are always off cycle on your payroll. That's one of the issues.
How can that be?
Right, why are we off cycle and they're not?
We're on
If they all,
until
if
we
they
have a
get paid
long
every
month.
2 weeks, or they get paid
Thank
twice
you,
a month?
mister. You're on until you have a 5-week month.
Yeah.
Wouldn't the same thing happen to them?
Yeah.
But they don't have to, they just wait, I think they pay them anyway, and
They
they just wait
flaunt
till
the
the.
law.
Yeah, and then they pay them at the meeting.
Right, that
They
doesn't make-
sign
Say
it
it.
at the meeting.
That doesn't make
Right?
any sense that they would be on schedule and we're not, because they would just be on schedule opposite of us.
Right now, you're off schedule.
Sure.
Like, you did not have a payroll manifest this week,
Correct.
right?
Right, so
Last
the
week
other
we signed.
districts are on schedule now because they meet on the second and third weeks,
Right.
right? But once we have that 5-week month again.
No, they only meet
Then we will
every
be-
other week, so there's definitely, they're in the same boat as us.
Right, they're in the same boat as
Yeah.
us, right. I mean, they're not right now, but they will be.
One of them is, because they only had one meeting this week, so if they were signing this week, the other one that's meeting next week would have to come in and sign.
So what happens for the other districts when they're off schedule?
People come in and sign, but not,
They come into the
As-
SAU and sign, just like we do?
No, they don't. I don't think.
Mr. Ruth seems to know.
Oh, I'm asking you.
We can go into non-public and talk about it.
Is it really a non-public issue?
It certainly is.
Okay. I think we should do that then.
Okay.
However, we can do some stuff in public. Do we want to ask our lawyer? Have we asked our lawyer about the possibilities at all for
I've got it.
standing orders or anything yet?
I've got it written down to,
Okay, but we haven't yet. We haven't before. I don't know if it's addressed them. Does the board want
not when these things unfold so quickly.
Right.
Today.
a standing order, just find out about digital signatures.
to? Yeah, I mean, we could ask.
I can ask him to explore, I can ask him to figure out what other districts do. And how they handle this, and what creative solutions they've had to this.
I'd also be interested in what his opinion is upon orders of the school board. Is that something that needs to be, re-upped for every pay period, or is that something that can be a
This rule is
standing
written in
order?
That's what I wrote.
1887.
Have standing orders to sign them.
It's written in 1887, and they just corrected.
All right, so I think that's our probably best course of action is to get a lawyer's opinion on this, get our lawyer's opinion on this, and then we can move on from there and bring this up
Okay.
again. Does that make sense to everybody? Sounds good. Okay, so we'll put that on our agenda too. This will be continuing discussion.
Well, I will put it on the agenda if your lawyer has it done.
Yeah.
Remember, I've only got a week to get it in, you know what I mean? So it will be on, just like the, yeah. It'll get there.
Right. Yep, let's just not forget
Just
about it.
like-
That's all. That's fine. Thank you.
got
All right. Everybody happy with where we're going with that?
Yes.
Next up, committee reports. Do we have any committee meetings?
We did not have our meeting today. We're gonna have it on the 18th, I think,
For the facilities?
for the no, not the facilities, for the policies.
Okay.
Budget committee meets October 17th, a week from Wednesday, 2 weeks from yesterday. There's still, as of the last meeting, the 2 open positions for Dave and myself.
Still open?
As far as I know, we haven't met, so we can't appoint until we have a meeting, so.
So, you said you're meeting on the 17th?
That's correct.
And we have a meeting on the 18th where we get the budget. I mean, not the budget, we get our
Yep,
monthly statement, so
yep, we have our financial
you'll have a chance to
reports.
go over that before you get to the meeting?
I will get the budget packet that all budget committee members get. I'll have a
Okay.
chance to preview that. Any questions that I have, I will direct to Robert Sullivan and Scott Rooney,
Did-
and perhaps schedule a meeting to prep ahead of time.
They didn't ask for the budget to be in this, the budget
No, we don't have a
preparation, they didn't
We don't
have
have it
that,
yet.
they didn't ask for
It's
that.
just their quarterly meeting.
Okay.
It's just, they scheduled back in, June.
I must have got, did anybody else get a notice that the budget committee wants all warrant articles at the
Yes.
very first meeting, which we've always kind of had?
They get at our meeting anyway. They're
I
done.
get most of them unless we have a discussion on
Right.
something, it's held up.
Yeah.
But we can always, if it's anything to do with money, we can wait. Just put a motion
Yeah.
in, but then hold off on money. Okay.
That's something we should maybe start thinking about with our budget though too. Do we anticipate any warrant articles this year and what, for what?
Sorry, someone said.
Well, then maybe we make sure that we get our statement of all of our funds, so we know how much we got in every fund,
Yeah,
Co-Brown,
yeah,
facilities.
The other thing is, I think that's, selectmen leave, the selectmen, we're planning on putting the town part of the SRO in a warrant article.
Town what?
The town part of the SRO,
Oh,
they,
yeah.
they wanted to put that into a warrant article, so that's probably one that we'd want to do as well, I'm guessing. Although I'm not sure how to coordinate those two.
Yeah, because it's gonna be very confusing. You're gonna have 80% on the school side and
Right.
20%,
And
so.
we'll have it to one passes the one doesn't, or
Right.
something like that. Yeah, I'm not sure how best to do that. We'll have to think about that, figure it out.
Well, there's one thing you can think about that and play the game where let the town do the 20% because we already could find money in there.
Well, I mean, that's,
and-
it's
and
gonna be
budget
for
it.
next year.
And budget for it.
Oh, we can put it in our budget instead, yeah, that's true. We could-
Instead of putting on a warrant article, I'll just have.
But then if it's in our budget, and our budget passes, and the warrant article from the town side doesn't pass, then where are we, you know?
Yeah, that's where we are this year.
We'll have to cut a couple arms off the cop.
80% cut.
20%.
Okay, any other committees, committee meetings? I think we,
I had wellness, but she went over.
yeah, she went over that. We had a tech committee meeting, I think before last meeting, I don't think we had it since, or give a report on that. Clubs, calendar,
Oh, I saw it in the last meeting about the delegate, the board delegate.
yes.
When's that meeting? You
The
said-
delegate assembly?
Yeah.
Let's just jump,
January.
that is our next thing on our agenda anyway, so let's
Oh,
just jump
that's
to that. Yep. The NSBA call for resolution. So there's two things going on. I think there's a meeting, and I believe you were the delegate. for
I am
it.
the delegate.
Yeah. So they have a meeting and they also have a call for resolutions. So I think the NHSBA, they work on a set of resolutions. There are policies in a way, these are the things, these are what we believe, kind of. And these resolutions are submitted by boards and approved by the NHSBA. I believe we vote on them, right? Probably must come back to us to vote on too, right?
At the delegate assembly.
Oh, that's where it's voted on, the delegate assembly. So we do have the opportunity as a member to propose a resolution for the NHSBA too, saying, part of their operating procedures or policies, whatever you want to call them. And similarly, I guess we could probably, if Mr. Wells is going to be there, we can give him direction as to how we think you should vote on the other ones that come up. So if anyone has any ideas or thoughts on creating a resolution that we should submit, we should talk about that. I don't know if we do.
I mean, I can't think of anything. I've been getting emails about it. I'm just curious what's the deadline for
November
proposing?
2nd, I
November
believe. It's
2nd.
on the form that I distributed in the last packet.
Thank you.
Right. So if we're gonna do this, we'll have to do it within our next meeting, probably.
Okay.
Keep that in mind. Look through maybe the resolutions and see what's there, see if it makes sense. All right. All set with that? Schedule a public hearing. So our last meeting, we talked about potentially scheduling a public hearing about the school resource officer. We waited because two of the key people weren't here that were been involved in this, Mr. Wells and Ms. Hanneman, so we delayed it till now. These are the slides we were going to present, I assume?
Yes.
Thank you.
So I think we've got two things to do here, is actually schedule the public hearing, if we want to go forward with that, for a particular date, and review the slides and see if we want to add or modify anything, or, and/or who would present them. I would recommend that.
So I think we, two public hearings. One initially, probably, I think I mentioned sometime in November. And then, I don't know if we can do it during deliberative session, have that done there too.
Deliberative session in March.
Yeah, because that's right before the vote.
It's not your meeting.
I know it's not a meeting, but can't you, yeah, we're gonna be talking about the
I think you
budget.
could talk about it.
Yeah, but can't
We
we,
wouldn't have a public hearing.
Is
yeah,
that-
that's what I meant, so have a presentation there too with
Is
this.
that if it's on a warrant, we can do that?
Because, yeah, if it's on a
Right.
warrant,
So if
then,
it's, well, if it's on a warrant or in our budget, I mean, we do have a
We can do it either
slideshow.
yeah,
Yep.
and we could put that in there, that's what I meant,
Yep.
not public hearing.
Okay, yeah, I see what you're saying. Yep. So, do you want to pick a date for the public hearing, and we'll plan on doing it in the gymnasium, perhaps? And
Yeah.
I don't know how many people will show up, and then we'll have to publicize that, obviously.
So,
So, yeah, I was thinking, last time, we didn't pull the trigger on this, but I think November is one of those months where we have five Thursdays.
when's Thanksgiving?
One of them is,
Visit the fourth.
one of them is Thanksgiving. We have a meeting on the 1st and the 15th of November. Thanksgiving is the 22nd, but then the 29th is kind of an extra Thursday. That might not be a bad time to do it on a Thursday night, just because I think all of you should be available.
That's not, yeah,
What's the date again?
November 29th,
And what time?
same time as a board meeting, maybe 6:30,
Probably a good time for people to show up.
In the gymnasium?
right? It'd be in the-
yeah, we're just gonna look for basketball games.
Do you have
Comfort.
your athletic schedules?
Yeah, so that's good. Or, I mean, we don't have to do it in the gymnasium, it depends on how many people are gonna show up, right? If we're gonna have, we can fit a lot of people in this room too, right? There's a lot
Or
of
the
chairs.
cafeteria?
Oh, the cafeteria, yeah, we can do that there too.
But we'll know in a minute.
In fact, doing it here with, if we're gonna present slides, might be a nicer way, because we don't need to set up a projector and things.
Yeah, true. Depending on how many people you really think you're gonna get.
Right, well, how many people do you think we can fit in here? Like 50?
I don't know, what's the fire department capacity? Fire code.
Sometimes it's posted somewhere.
Yeah,
I
it
don't
usually
know.
should be posted.
People coming for the buses last time, that was like, what, 30 people deep, and it was packed.
Yeah, that's true.
We could have it in the gym, but don't have to set up the chairs, just people can sit in the stands. We just have to get a dedicated person.
So,
that can
I think
pull them
with the
out.
though in the gym, they have to cover up the floor and stuff too, and,
So what we done in years past, like, so when I do like a internet safety thing, all we do is we pulled one set of bleachers out, right? I have a portable whiteboard, right, and it's in the middle of the gymnasium, and you present right there, and
with the projector.
with a projector.
Yeah, smart board.
Yeah, with a smart board.
Okay,
And
so
it's-
that works out well.
Yeah.
We have the runners that fit right in front of the,
Yep. And there would
bleachers
be
still.
no
You have
traffic
those still?
on the court itself.
Is the gym open that night?
So there's no basketball games, but the Northwood Town Rec has reserved it from 6 to 8, so we would have to cancel them.
I don't know for what, though.
Basketball
Basketball start already?
basketball practice.
Oh,
November.
Well, it's the end of November.
I'm on top of that. I forgot it started about that soon.
I mean, I'd feel bad kicking them out, but
Yeah.
what do you guys want to do? I mean, we could do,
But
we
you have
could
to figure out how many, if you think you are gonna have 30 to 40, then they probably,
It's gonna be tight, because, Adrian just said about, remember the bus thing, that was 30 or 40 people, and that was jam-packed.
You think it's gonna bring people out?
Somebody could
I don't
figure
know, I'm
out where to
hoping.
put
Hopefully
those
we
two
can
advertise
bookcases that
enough
really,
To get enough numbers.
you could get rid of those two.
The caf, we could put a projector in there, just.
Yeah,
Yeah, we have
just,
to.
just need a PA system, which is fine,
Yeah.
because the acoustics, but.
Wow, yeah. Again, those two bookcases could be moved, these tables could be pushed back. You could, and you could set up 3 rows of
You do a calf.
8 and 8.
Oh, yeah, we do, yeah, we do
Surf
like
truck
the
half.
we do the 6th grade field trip thing in the cafeteria. They set up and they do a presentation and, everybody sits at the tables. That works okay
Yeah,
too.
whatever, yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
So the cafeteria on the 29th
At 6:30.
at 6:30.
One chocolate milk for you.
No chocolate milk.
Thank you.
No chocolate milk for Mr. Wells. Ms. Wells, do you want to do the presentation on the slide?
Yeah, or Amy, or it doesn't matter.
I think you're the better one.
Sure, I will facilitate it.
You know.
Yeah, I think you know it better than I do, so I'd be more comfortable with you up there. One thing, in looking through the slides, it may be worth pointing out that on the SRO numbers, that we do have 1 in Northwood.
Yeah, why not go Brad?
Right, so,
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if we want to do the school board's history on our decision on the SRO.
I think that'd be, yeah.
You know, why we're having the meeting in the first place, how it came about. We can't speak for the select board, but the fact that, we met with the select board and their desire to put it, I mean, maybe we can get a statement from them. We don't want to say anything for them, but
Yep, I think that's a very good idea.
so
Yep.
people show up at the meeting, there's no confusion in the audience about
Right.
what
Where we
we've
are.
already done, what we've already decided and thought about.
Show like our timeline.
Yeah, timeline of,
Yeah.
because I don't want to get into it, but we did go talk to the select board and ask him at one point first.
Right.
Got tacit approval, and then we did what we did, and then what happened.
You can have that.
Would you mind reaching out to the interim town administrator and seeing if the selectmen?
Yes.
Yeah, we have an interim town
Sandy?
administrator.
No,
Is it Sandy?
no,
No.
it's,
Tammy,
Tammy.
Tammy Boyer.
Tammy.
She was there 20 years ago.
Tammy Baloo?
Baloo, yeah, I say the wrong, I pronounce her
Tammy
name.
Baloo?
Lives over in West End, on,
Interim for
Kate's
3
last
months,
day
I
is the
believe.
8th, I think.
Yep, that's Tammy.
So anyway, reach
Well,
out.
he had, I thought we had already reached out to the selectmen and they said that only maybe there would be a representative there.
Yeah, I mean, we should still reach out to them again, I think. And
I can do that.
Just give them the date.
yeah, at least give them the date
Yeah.
and see.
Ms. Hanneman, you have the presentation, right? In your,
I have it, and Nate actually put it together, though. I
Right.
gave him,
right. So who's going to make the changes?
I can make the changes if you
All right,
want.
all right. Just making, because,
Yep.
yeah.
yeah.
So we make the changes, get it to Mr. Byrne. Get a new presentation, Mr. Wells will present,
We'll invite a representative from the select board.
invite all of select board, whoever shows up, shows up. That's,
Do you want me to just send this back out when I make changes to you guys? Or bring it to the next meeting?
Or you can email it to me, I'll throw it
Email
back
to
in
you.
the
I think it's
packet.
fine. I don't think we need to
Packet.
I don't feel we need to reapprove it. The board thinks that.
Do we need to, if we're inviting the select board, do we need to share the presentation with them to preview ahead of time? It's our presentation, but just asking.
If there's any requirement.
Okay.
So Ms. Hanneman, can you, when it's done, email it to Ms. Young so we can load it and have it ready to be presented?
Sorry to dump all this stuff on you, Ms. Hanneman, but are you still working on the next newsletter as well? Because this might be something that might be worth putting in to a letter.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yep.
And maybe the Laker as well? I don't know if you're done it for this week already?
I guess I would want a little blurb from somebody, exactly what you wanted to say, but yeah, I'd be happy to put it in.
I can do that. That's fine.
You mean about the public hearing?
Yeah.
Why don't we just email you the posting?
Sure.
But if we wanted on this later, it'd have to be pretty quick, I'm imagining, because it goes out tomorrow.
It's fine.
So,
The magic happens between 2:30 and 4.
Oh, good, because that's about when the magic, that's about when the magic will happen tomorrow.
Recall that.
all right, great, thank you.
I'm especially modest tonight.
That's a good timeline.
There's no dust on your back if you're busy doing this.
I can work with that.
All right, we all good with this? Everybody clear on what's happening? Cool.
Yeah.
All right, we have on our agenda blizzard bag discussion.
That was me.
Yeah, you have,
All right, I gathered some information for, I don't know if you're ready to have a discussion, because I got a lot of information to give you.
let's get to the
So-
information first, then we can discuss after, maybe.
Maybe. So the first thing I'm passing out is your rules about, I'm sort of killing two birds with one stone here. Mr. McGuigan had asked me to calculate hours versus days, which I did, and then I also pulled the rules, and then in the second page of the rules are
Three
blizzard bags.
copies, or?
On the second page of the handout is the blizzard bag request form for you to consider what it takes to be approved to do blizzard bags. Then in addition to that, oh, sorry, Mr. Wells.
It's okay.
In addition to that, I pulled a close to you district
Policy?
policy on how they do blizzard bags. If you flip the first handout over,
Seems like a lot of work.
Let's go all the way over.
if you flip it all the way over,
It's blank.
no, it's not. The line's on there.
Oh.
Mine's on there.
What is this?
That's an analysis of your instructional time. So, kindergarten and grades 1 through 6 are the same for your purposes. So the length of your day, by state rule, can't be more than 5.75 when you do this calculation. So I put it, your day is actually longer. So 5.75 times 180 school days is 1,035 hours. Minus your required hours, which are 945, leaves you 90 hours if you choose to work that way. And then when I divide that by 5.75, I come up with roughly 15 school days. In grades 7 and 8, the numbers are a little different, but if you follow what I just said, it's pretty self-explanatory.
How did the length of days, 5.66, is it, that represents who?
That represents grades 7 and 8.
And 575?
It's kind of like that's
It's
supposed to
off.
go there,
Yeah,
that's supposed to
the
go
header-
there,
the
that's supposed to
headers.
go there.
I thought the other, older grades would have had to go more hours.
They do.
You know,
They do,
yeah.
Yeah, they do.
and they do.
Just the length of the day is different.
The length of day is different because we have to factor in transition time in between classes for
Right.
them.
Oh, all right.
You're factoring just instructional time. So your length of your actual day is longer, but your instructional time is 5.75 and 5.66.
So if I'm reading this right, the law doesn't say anything about having 180 days then? It's just the number of hours.
If you actually look at the Dover School District calendar, which I don't have copies for you, but I happen to have in here, their student days are 177. Because the length of their school days and their hours.
And so, I mean, you're saying the 575 is the maximum that we can count per day, but not actually what we're actually doing, right?
A3. Page 1.
Yeah, I'm just curious as to whether this means this is like how much we can get credit for each day? Or do we, if we're here for 6 hours, we're breaking the law because, we're over instructing the
You get
kids?
credit for. That's what I'm going with.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
well, and if you're here for 6 hours, there's recess time, and then there's lunchtime or whatever, and that's not considered instructional time.
And you're saying we meet these values for instructional time?
Yes.
These are the actuals, right?
Yeah, the spreadsheet is your actuals.
Right, okay.
Well, it's, your actual is framed to 5.75. Actually, your elementary 6, Ms. Young,
Yes,
your elementary 6 point, I can't remember.
defined it.
Yeah.
But you did the calculation.
Yeah, we did.
You did the
Yeah.
calculations.
I was
We are
trying to
actually beyond-
anticipate.
She provided me the info and I did the calculation.
Okay.
And then I did them again when I read the 5.75, because,
So we exceeded the 5.75 and the 5 for each day. Okay. I just want to make sure of that.
Yep.
That's all, yeah.
So we have 6 hours and 25 minutes K through 6 minus 25 minutes for lunch.
right.
So 6 hours for,
Because in elementary school, you can count recess,
okay.
30 minutes of it.
Yeah, that's something like that.
Is that what it
here.
said?
Yeah, something like
Sorry,
that.
I remember I have it in front of me. 50.
25.
Okay.
So do we have the choice to do hours versus days?
Well, it sounds like we don't have a choice. It's hours,
We
period.
don't. It's hours, period.
10-hour days, let's do it.
Right.
Right, there is no,
I'm fine with
We
that.
I always
also
thought
wanna look
it
at
was
what
180 days, but I don't
kids-
see
Yeah,
anything on here saying.
everybody
so
always,
did I.
well, apparently not Dover, but everybody that I've ever known does 180 days, so. All this time, we've been making up snow days.
Well, since 2014.
Okay,
Oh, so this is newish.
so that, before 2013, it was 180 days probably, and then that's just, like, practices probably carried over.
Well, I can tell you from my time in Milton, it was 180 days unless you filed an alternate plan.
So there
Okay,
was
So
a
we had to
change.
do that, because remember the Mother's Day floods way back when?
07?
So, remember that, oh, you were there.
That's a whole week.
Right, so we came up with, what did we do? We added
We added a half hour to the day, Monday
for
through
May
Thursday.
and June,
Yeah.
right? No, after vacation, we added a half an hour a day, petition to the state, and they approved it. And that way, we were able to make up those missed days by the end of June. So, that's the way it used to be. According to this, that changed in 2014.
What happens if you don't?
What?
What happens if you don't? You say, you know what? I'm stopping school at 177 days. See you later. End of school.
It might be fine. It's only a half hours.
I'm
my
not really ever
alternate
gonna, I don't know that answer, because I'm not gonna do that.
That's my alternate plan. We're just doing it right now. 177 days, we're done.
so if I'm understanding this correct, if we had, say, 4 snow days, that theoretically wouldn't have, draw down on our hours to the point where we'd have to make up. If we had to close school 4 times due to snow, and saying the balance in days for 7th and 8th graders is 4.9, they would still be over the 990 hours. Am I reading that correct?
Where'd the
The balance-
4.9 come from?
Okay, so I'm
Balance in
looking at the
days.
last column, in the bottom row, balance in days is
7 days.
4.9. And that's after, that's the
Okay.
difference
Yeah,
between
I
the
see what you're
minimum and
saying.
what we're doing at 180 days. So if we, this winter, have to close school 4 times due to weather, at that point, we're still above hours.
Well, the other thing here, though, is it says we need to schedule 30 to 60 additional hours.
Which you have in your calendar now. See?
You need to,
So that's
okay, I
already in
didn't
part- it's
recall
already
reading
in.
that.
Yeah,
So
it just
we
needs to
need
be scheduled, I guess. doesn't
No,
say-
that's why I was hoping that you'd want to take this and read it over and then.
Come back.
Okay.
Right, right, yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, no, thank you for bringing this
That would have been
up.
helpful, yeah, because I didn't read all the way through.
Yeah, no, totally understandable. This
But
is very good
If
information,
you,
though. Thank you
if
for bringing
you,
this.
you don't have your calendar in front of you, but the 20th, the 21st, the 24th, the 25th, the 26th, the 27th, and the 28th, please know, are your 60 out, you're,
The 60 hours scheduled.
right, they're just done in days.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the other thing maybe worth looking at too is the staff contracts. Because they may say things too, they may say 180 days and stuff in them as well, so.
Right, this, to make any calendar change
Well,
or calculation change
Right.
is going to be a multi-year process.
Right.
Because it needs to be a topic of negotiations,
Mm-hmm.
or it needs to be, or you need to start negotiations again to talk about it. And we need to get both sides to agree. And we have to do that twice, because we have to do it with the
Assuming it's in,
NESPA contract too.
assuming it's in the contract. If it's not in the contract, then it doesn't, we don't really do
It
that,
is
right?
in the number of days.
I kinda
is
figured it
identified in
was,
the
yeah.
contract, so the kids might not have to make up those days, but teachers would, and paraprofessionals would.
So it doesn't count for the teachers even if they have to be accessible to a computer? and
180 is a student.
Student in,
Day.
in the school day. So the blizzard bags,
Or hours.
The blizzard bags can be used to make up 5 days.
okay.
But if
I mean, if you, the,
Well, let's read it.
right, because I think that you'll see in the checklist for the blizzard bags that there's some challenges instructionally there. One of the concerns I have is,
Developing.
well, it's equity about, well, let's take it off the checklist. So I worry about,
Cost.
no,
Oh my gosh.
Big gallery over here.
I'm just trying to speed up the process. I'm obviously slowing it down.
I worry about equity amongst the staff, where the classroom teachers will bear the majority of the effort during the blizzard bag time. I think you can work around those issues. I worry, I worry about the quality of, so, you know, you make a blizzard bag in November, right? And you don't use it until March. Is that information and curriculum in the blizzard bag relevant to what they're learning in March? Or is it busy work from November on stuff they've already mastered? I don't know. So, I also believe that nothing can, you know, if we look at research and data, we know that the teacher has the most effect on student achievement. I have like a .01, they were like a .08, Jocelyn's like a .03. So are we taking an option that is removing contact time with the people who most influence their learning? Things to think about.
Well, I will say why I brought this up is because I had all sorts of opinions about blizzard bags until I actually started talking to teachers who do blizzard bags about blizzard bags, and they absolutely love them. They don't want to have days filled with the end of the school year, with kids sweating to death, with busy work, and they don't want to be there. They would rather have, they literally set up their laptop. If you do it where, you know, 80% of the kids or more have to have however many percentage have to have access to the internet, you have to figure that out. The teachers are there on their laptops or whatever, their computer all day. They're there to answer questions, they're there to do that. If not, they bring home the work, it's all been developed ahead of time. They put a team of teachers together to actually do the blizzard bags. And my initial thought was, I don't want to do that. I just want to give my kids a day off. Like, I don't want to make them do work. But apparently it isn't all that complicated once you get it.
And I'm not dissuading the board from doing that. I'm saying you need to consider all.
No, absolutely. I was just
Angles.
explaining why I brought it up, because we've had crazy amount of snow days, and the weather's not going to change anytime soon. So I thought getting ahead of it would be a good idea. I mean, it's not something you have to do this year. Can do it in the future, but, you know, I know that there are people who think it's a really
And when
good
I
idea.
bring back calendar information, that might solve the issue
Right.
for you too.
Yeah.
I mean, I just don't want to, like, you know, give you incomplete information.
Yeah, no, I think there's a lot of good information to digest here.
Yeah,
And,
and that's all I was trying to
Yep,
provide you.
Yep,
You know, I tried to provide you what some other districts doing, I tried to provide you the calculation of the hours
yep,
and the RSAs.
yep. No, this is great. So I think we should all look at this, think about it, and we can have continuing discussions about it, especially when it comes time to set the calendar.
You wanna put it in our parking lot, or do you wanna?
Probably a good idea.
Yeah.
Actually, I was gonna put it back on the next agenda.
That works
do it
too?
right.
Yeah.
That's fine.
All right, do that.
And I know Barnstead does exit. If I reach out to them and,
Pembroke does.
yeah, see what they
Rochester
kind
does.
of.
Rochester does, you got Rochester's
Is
right
that,
there.
does that count as a day for the teachers? If they're supposed to be 187, and that still counts as a day they worked, if we
If
call it
80% of the
blizzard day?
students participate, yes.
And there are ways to make sure that 80% of them participate.
How's
There,
that?
well, you're gonna
are
get a
ways.
grade. You're gonna get you're gonna get a grade. These, my friends,
No, that's it.
just says, you know, you're not gonna get X, Y, or Z if you don't turn in your work.
All right, budget discussion.
That was just a marker I threw in there. I can tell you where we're at.
Sure, let's do that.
We're meeting Tuesday. So the budget, your draft budget's being presented to me on Tuesday to go through. Mr. Byrne has got the majority of the special ed information in. Ms. Young has been working on the rest of the information, and we'll bring you a budget back. We'll bring you a budget.
Next meeting, we have a proposed budget, or the first draft of it?
I believe so.
So, only,
You're gonna be missing some things, you know that, right?
yeah, and those two things I'm thinking of right off the top of my head. Tractor is going into budget this year, correct? I thought that was part of the CIP.
Well, the way it,
We never decided that, I don't think.
So that's what I'm
Maybe
thinking,
maybe we
I'm
could,
coming up
yeah.
with a budget, and I just didn't know, like, are we giving clear guideline? I mean, I just don't want to just say, oh, we got a budget, and like, oh, scrap it up. Now, I want
Yeah,
to
yeah.
get it somewhat
That,
close.
I mean.
that's not my intent to present you a budget you're gonna approve in one night. My intent is to present you a budget with the majority of the cost in it,
Okay.
and then let you folks have the opportunity to put some things in, rather than,
Or take them out.
right, I'd still rather, be right.
Yeah.
So,
We were trying to figure out at our last meeting how we want to give guidelines to the administration as to where the
Right.
budget came, and we decided to really just let them come with their,
And I know that Dave said something about 2%, 0 to 2% or something like that on, and didn't you?
No, that was just thrown out, you
Thrown
know,
out there.
we were
I-
asking us questions whether or not we
Well,
would
the big thing is
say
gonna be-
something positive. We said, let them come back with the budget, we trust that they're professionals, then we will look at it, then
Right.
we can.
so we didn't really give them guidance, right? We're-
do you want me to put the tractor in?
Well, the thing is, also, I'm just thinking, is like, because we haven't really had the discussion about the SRO, because we took all that money out from last year, so that's another factor that's gonna weigh the budget either way. So, I mean, I think there's so many different things, but if you're gonna come with next meeting with us, a general kind of, hey, this is what the cost for us is gonna be, or minus the 70,000 we took out for the SRO,
Do that separately.
yeah, so.
I'd like to see that all just separately, and then we can mix and match and.
Right,
and
you've
do
really got an
things,
opportunity to,
Has that been put out to bid for a tractor?
that was put out to bid last year,
Oh, last year, oh, okay. Didn't know.
and I'm gonna write to rebid the tractor.
I don't think it was put out to bid, we got an estimate.
We got an estimate.
Yeah, I think we should probably just reuse those estimates or get new ones. I don't think we should
We
put
do
in
have a
bids. We
fairly
should put,
recent one. yes.
Do we?
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah, we should put bids
All
out,
right, I
yeah.
don't need to write that then.
And so another thing, and I hate to bring it up, is like, I don't know when
This is a
Mr.
sign.
Sayers,
This is about the sign.
no, sign, I'm gonna get my sign, not right now. Mr. Sayers, if, I don't know, if whenever he's gonna retire, hopefully not way before, in many years, to come down the road, he plows. So we gotta think about, hey, if he leaves, plow truck, we need a plow truck and a plow. The tractor's not gonna do all that,
You'd have to buy the attachment for it, which would be a plow.
yeah.
Or it attaches to the bucket, or the bucket comes off and a plow
Or
goes on.
contract it to somebody else.
Contract or whatever, yeah.
Speaking of that, do you know if we ever figured out a way to compensate him for the time he spent plowing? Because he's using his equipment and
Never
stuff.
asked for it in the past.
I know we
don't
never
know
asked
what
for it, but-
Did we stop paying for his gas? I know that was brought up before, but anyway,
I think we should.
yeah.
That's his tractor.
He uses his truck, and his
Uses
own,
his truck,
and
okay.
his own plow, if I recall
Okay.
correctly, right? So,
So we're essentially getting free plowing.
yeah,
Yeah.
which is,
We owe him a thank you.
yeah, at least, right?
We're gonna have to, if we get, there'll be a big discussion because on that,
That's gonna
on
be a
that
huge cost.
tractor, because, you know, actually, how many times does he use it? There's a bucket, what does he use it for? Once a year we get, anyway, it's another discussion for a budget time.
Yeah, well, the other thing you guys could do is get together as a facilities committee and ask these questions and get some answers. I think that'd be a great
Okay.
thing for you guys to have a meeting about, and then you can bring all the information back to the board. If you guys want to schedule something like that, that might be a good first step as well, especially for budget stuff.
Okay.
Oh, so,
We'll have to work out a.
one other thing, I know I don't have the CIP in front of us, or the 5-year plan here. Paving, yeah, there was some other big ticket items that were coming up. I think they were more on 2020 than were 2019.
I took it out of my folder tonight, it's on my desk at home, 'cause
Actually,
it was
this year
like
was a
so
lot.
many papers.
So, that was on this year's, the paving?
A lot this year that's done.
But we didn't budget for that, though.
No, you took a lot of the purchases out of
much
your
time?
fund balance that were on your SIP.
Right.
Jocelyn's pulling it right now.
The CIP?
And put it in the budget for this year,
So we did,
what was that?
The computer replacement, we did the locker replacement, the kitchen freezer, and the lighting in gymnasium. And
There's a one left, I think.
so those are all included for this year,
So we're all done, I think.
They're all done.
except the paving front was 30,000. So that's when if we want to put that in this year, that would be something that we could discuss once we get the budget.
Well, the budget, but also when you get me to come back and report on your infrastructure.
Yep.
It's all sort of tied together.
Yes, it is, right.
Did you have that 30,000 in for this year, 18, 19 to be done? No. Okay.
yes, it is in
Yes?
the,
Is it in the budget, or is just in the
No.
wish list that we wanna?
it was
What's in
just
the-
identified in the CIP
As
for
a
that year,
need,
but a
okay.
funding source was not
Okay,
identified.
thank you.
Well, the CIP doesn't deal with that, right? It's just, does Mr. Strobel still do the CIP? I mean, is that part of
He on,
the planning board? Is that the planning boards
I believe it's the planning board.
that does that? Maybe we should maybe hook up with him too and see if there's any, like if the town has needs and we need to shift things around. I mean, the CIP should be updated, right? It shouldn't be something we
Did we
just.
He was
forward
talking
that to
about it
Linda
last
Smith?
budget season, he came to the budget committee before I was on the school board, so.
So I know a lot of that got kind of put on the burner when Joe left.
Right.
Like, so, because he was driving the master plan and all that, and I don't know where it's at
Yeah,
right
well,
now.
yeah, well, the town may be in a little shift in
Yeah.
things now too, so.
Because I did ask him about the master plan during the SRO discussion, and I kind of got no answer, so.
Yeah. Do you have everything you need for coming back with the budget? More information you want from us?
We're gonna bring you a budget. We're gonna bring you a tractor quote. We're going to bring you your trust fund balances.
Okay.
Sweet.
Then we're gonna take it from there. I think it's really important for us to see whether we're up and down based on enrollment, like,
Yep.
Bill Brown's.
That's another
Where we
thing, too.
start like
Huge.
peppering. Well, maybe.
Yeah,
Maybe.
Let's look.
Right.
So,
So,
it's a lot of dough.
I know what's happened in past years too, is that, our previous superintendent would call the homeschooled kids that we knew about to find out if they were planning on going to Co-Brown.
Yep.
So we could adjust those numbers the right way. All right, so it's gonna be a fun-filled meeting, our next meeting. We'll have all our budget stuff, which is good, because we don't have a whole lot else scheduled, so. it
Yeah,
might be-
budget time.
Yep. Any other budget stuff we wanna send?
Well, at the next meeting, set future dates for our meetings. I would think we should throw in another work
Workshop?
session,
We could, yeah.
like October 25th or something like, an extra.
Yeah, after we get to.
Yeah, after the next meeting, we should schedule a meeting to really work, so we can just really discuss that.
Yeah, that'd be a good idea.
just to remind the board, I'm at a conference, the 24th, 25th, 27th.
Yeah.
So
So
I
you
won't
wouldn't
be
be here.
available.
Not the 26th?
I think I have that night off.
It's got a window.
Again, work sessions, for a work session, it's
Yeah,
not
4 days.
necessary.
That's true, yeah, we could just do it with us, yeah, yeah.
Come on Friday, leave again
Could be
Saturday.
just Mr. Sullivan, if we had questions, we could just say we're not gonna make any decisions, but we're gonna go over everything.
You
and then
might be
come up
able
with a
to.
list. Yeah,
You know, it depends on, I got other budget. You might not have.
well, that's what I mean, if we schedule a meeting before the other town schedule a meeting, I would think
Well, you're too late.
we're already too late. So, what, on the 25th, then the night, we could do it a different night, I just threw out the 25th, because we're always.
Oh, we'll
used to
figure it
a
out
Thursday.
once we get
Okay.
our information, and we can, yeah, we can just do it on our own, too.
Oh, I think we can, yeah.
All right, parking lot items, same thing, it's on page 57. I know I mentioned the school board newsletter, is that,
Yep.
we're on that?
On it.
Cool, thank you. We did talk about the tractor, school safety, competency presentation coming up. Is there anything we want to add, or?
I do, actually, you're gonna ask board members to talk at the end, so I'll wait.
Okay. Student representative, did you get a chance to talk to Headmaster Smith?
I did, I gave him the dates for all your school board meetings, the second meeting of the month, and he's working on whether he can find a student. I told him the student can go first and then leave and not have to stay.
Yep,
So he's working on that.
okay. And it could be the same student, or it could be a different student, or
Could
whatever,
rotate,
whatever he
could
wants.
be the same.
I think we'd be happy with either.
Keith?
Yeah.
On strategic plan, goals, page 53 is who was there, somebody here at the table that was at that, were you part of that strategic planning? And
That was Keith.
There was a lot of questions about Connect with the Community. They had things about the budget, and
Yep.
I don't know what has been discussed in the past, or any solutions to come up with ways to make the budget better, or to make sure that the community gets,
A lot of what we had talked about in the strategic planning meetings were things, similar things to what you mentioned at the last meeting, with having like an outline with sections, to say where the money's going,
Yeah.
and trends and stuff like that. Ms. Young was there too. I don't remember what else we talked about for.
A budget statement, too.
Yeah, right.
budget statement.
Yeah, like pretty much what the budget, the whole premise of that budget is. Kind of like gives you the general idea of what we're trying to do.
Budget
I mean,
summary.
We haven't implemented it yet.
Oh, okay.
Right, but these were the things that the strategic planning committee was interested in and thought would be a good thing. So it's definitely something to keep in mind as we go forward, and I may want to see what we can tackle on that.
Thank you.
Yeah. I think with Mr. Sullivan here next meeting, we could probably ask him to,
So
O'Sullivan.
What are you gonna ask him?
The stuff in our strategic plan regarding budget stuff.
Budget presentation.
To make it
Budget
much
presentation.
easier to read or for the general
Yeah.
public. That was what I got out of that question.
Right, something that we could.
Yeah, it's explaining it better.
Yeah.
I mean, you're never gonna change the detail of those reports.
No.
It's to change how those reports are gonna be provided.
No, but one page
But-
with
we
everything
could have a
listed
cover-
You
would
can
be
have a
easier
summary
than
with
reading.
graphs, and you
Yep.
can do that.
Yep, and that'd be great.
Yep.
Love graphs.
I know you do.
Graphs and
pie
spreadsheets.
graphs?
We know.
Pie, yeah.
And
pie
Google
graphs.
Docs.
Google Docs, no,
That's
not Google Docs.
So to connect with the community, that's
Yeah.
the caveat right off of that. So, trunk or treat, October 27th. I don't know if the school board would want to put on a trunk and treat.
I'll be parking cars.
3 of us are already 4 of us are working for
Can I-
that, yeah.
Parking.
I'll be parking.
We're doing
cars.
parking, we're
Doing
doing
spooky
parking.
You're
walk.
probably, are you doing a
I'd be,
detail?
no, I'll
You'll be
probably be
detailed.
doing
Yeah.
a trunk for.
Otherwise, I'd love to.
No, so I just thought about it. I just
Yeah,
thought
no,
it would kind of
yeah,
be, we
yeah.
get out there and have like a school board thing.
The teachers usually do.
Yeah.
They
We
do.
could Long,
Yeah,
long miles.
that's right.
I have a great one. They make like a tent and everything.
No, it's a good idea. It's a
Yeah,
good-
thanks
Yeah,
for-
I like it.
I do, I think it's.
Maybe next year.
Yeah.
Well, maybe,
Don't task yourself out next year.
maybe, and it's just, the recreation committee is gonna put out a note about kind of donating some candy, like the rec's gonna buy extra candy to give to the people, to give out because they get wiped out, and that's all. But that's really not appropriate for us to be donating money for candy, I would imagine.
No, it's a board, no, yeah. I don't think so.
Yeah.
All right, anything else for the parking lot that we should add, or we happy with it? for now. Okay, moving on to the school board timeline for October. Intent to bargain's been, starting with that, we've already had our first meeting, in fact. Budget preparation, we're on there, staff lists, all personnel. What time? What's our limit?
Well, we're 13 minutes past,
All
but
right,
that's okay.
all right, we'll get going.
We'll get, we'll get flowing.
Starts at 8:30, what time?
Don't forget your picture, you got every picture.
Ooh, 8:30.
Um,
I guess that's what he's talking about.
the superintendent evaluation,
Me too.
everybody was at the joint board meeting.
I was
Yeah.
not at the joint board.
Okay, we did have some discussions there about, putting together a, what were we gonna do? Just an informal, remember from the joint board
Four
meeting?
times a year.
Yeah, an informal 4 times a year, just kind of review of, based on the goals that we had set out.
At the joint board?
I think it's gonna, the expectation is that there will be one at each board. There'll be, so it's something we should probably do and have a non-public and go over our goals and I think it's gonna be done at the SAU level as well, at the joint board level. I don't think we're gonna, at this point, do the whole tool. I think.
Because we might change the tool.
We might change the tool, right.
Thank you.
Winter coaches, we've got bus ridership.
We were supposed to have a kind of a,
I got an email from Kelly saying she wouldn't have that until next time,
Okay,
your ridership.
next time, next meeting, or?
meeting or next year?
No, I believe next meeting.
Okay.
She'll do it for all three.
That's still in October, so that's fine.
It is?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Preschool lease, we were on top of, so I think we're looking pretty good on our October timeline here. November looks pretty sparse, only one thing to do, so it's gonna be nice and easy. All right,
Every time of the year. And then, may I?
yeah, we got,
When they set the dates for when we go in on our Saturday morning, would you let us know? They'll do that tomorrow, I imagine. Or will they do that next Friday?
Next
You'll
Wednesday.
get your documents Friday, tomorrow.
what are you talking about? Budget committee?
Yeah,
Okay.
in a week from tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yes, I will definitely share the.
I can just steal the camera.
Right now? There's something to do?
Right before you adjourn.
Okay. We will probably have a non-public first, but, right before closing public comment? All right. Future agenda items, what do we have on tap right now for next meeting?
Past testing data by cohort group.
And that could be, by the way, that doesn't have to be next meeting, I don't think, if it takes longer.
I
I'm
think
okay with
she
that,
has
'cause-
it.
I do, although if you want Kat here for it, then it would
That's
make sense
right.
to do that for the
All right,
first.
so-
meeting of-
I don't think the board was saying that we need it right away, so I
So
mean,
we'll
if we
put it
wanna
on
wait
the-
till
Put it on the
first.
next.
Yeah, the one after,
I
Kat's
think
gonna be
that'd
here
be
anyway
fine,
if we
right.
need Kat, yeah.
We're gonna try to review that, we're gonna try
If it's there, we
to,
can have it, it's fine, but, sorry.
we're gonna try to have the strategic planning document for you, but that might be the next one, next too. But preschool lease is done. I gotta get a legal opinion.
Yep.
You want the trust fund balances. We're gonna post a public hearing. Blizzard bags, it's on your next agenda. Homeschool counts, planning on going from 8th to 9th grade.
We don't need that, that's
Well,
just
that's
part
part
of,
of your
that's part of
budget.
budgeting, yeah.
And bus ridership.
Okay. Anything, anybody wants to add, Mr. Ruth?
No. I'll think of it at the next
That's
meeting
fine.
is what, I'm almost set right now, I got nothing for the next meeting, I'm waiting for the budget stuff. to
Yeah, the
sign.
budget stuff will probably take up a majority of our meeting
Oh,
next
yeah.
time anyway, so, we'll spend some time going through that. As always, if you do think of anything, just let me know, we just need to have it finalized 7 days before the next meeting, so by next Thursday. So,
A question
Yeah.
now that I thought, when I sent you a memo and I asked it to be posted, that's my reasoning to do that, is that it would cover us for the right to know that I can't send out an email to 5 people
right,
in one sense, but by asking it to be posted, that's my understanding that it covers us under the right to know it's posted for the public to see.
yeah, what was it you wanted posted?
No, I wrote, I sent an email to you and to everybody saying I would like a discussion on
Oh, yeah.
payroll.
That's fine.
But that's why I put it in, and am I covering the right to know? I want to make sure
Well, it's just right to know eligible. You're not breaking
Okay.
any laws. If somebody
Okay.
asks for it, I'm gonna provide it to them. That's
Right,
all.
right.
yeah, okay.
Probably gonna do that anyway, right?
And that's part of the reason why we have the school email addresses, right? So that if anyone says, hey, I want to know everything that's gone to everybody, you don't need to give your personal email address, you know.
There's nothing on it, except notes from you and stuff from Home Depot and Lowe's and Target and all the restaurants.
All right, our future meetings seems a little bit off just because we have October 4th listed on there. It's really near future. But our next regular board meeting's on the 18th. We have a joint board meeting October 22nd, and then I believe our next board meeting after that is November 1st. And you said the budget committee is meeting on the 17th, is that what you said?
Yeah, the day before.
Yes.
us.
Okay, so we don't need to worry about updating that.
What time is that? Is that at 7, you think?
I think it's at 7. I'll double check real quick.
Oh, that's all right, I'll find out.
I will.
Before closing public comment, Mr. Rooney said he wanted to present something to
Yeah,
us.
I just
Is that
want
okay with
to
everybody?
let you know that Dr. Elizabeth I'm just using your camera, really. Dr. Elizabeth Kendall Englander is a professor of psychology and founder of the Massachusetts Aggression Reduction Center at Bridgewater State University. She delivers resources and programs about bullying and cyberbullying nationwide. I've seen her, and we want to thank Nottingham, is coming to Nottingham next Thursday, October 11th, in the cafeteria at 6:30. Their capacity is 250, and parents from Northwood and Stratford are invited to attend. If the Facebook people want to go to the SAU 44 website, they can pull it right off of there. If not, I can send a link. I'll send a link.
Send a link out, I'll post it.
But I've seen Dr. Englander, and she has a nice hands-on approach to working with families and teachers. This is open to families and teachers. You've seen her, right?
I saw her.
Yeah.
She's business.
Hands-on bullying?
Well, not.
No, she makes it interactive. She, she wants you to be a big part of that. She's not just
I
talking
think-
at you.
Yep. It will be very beneficial for the teachers and the parents in our districts to attend, so I want to encourage everybody to do that. And again, that's in Nottingham on October 11th at 6:30 in the cafeteria, and they do have a capacity of 250, so make sure everybody shows up on time if you show up. All right. Great, that's it.
Thanks.
Usually the ones that.
Confirm the budget meeting is October 17th at 7.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any closing public comment? No, any board member?
Yes, can we repost, or is it already reposted and, maybe put it out in the Suncook, as an article about trying to get a crossing guard?
You don't like me anymore?
Because it's something that we really need.
Maybe we can put that in our newsletter? That'd be-
And I don't know if we'll be targeting, people that are retired, maybe, that, I don't know if we could
That's
try to
why
do
the
that.
Sun would-
Because they're not on Facebook, you know, they don't have the social media apps, they probably don't. So.
Do we get a volunteer?
Actually, is he talking to me? I
We get a
can't.
volunteer all?
I can't.
He's gotta take care of his grandma.
No, I can't be paid. Oh, you want me to volunteer to stand out in that road with the people driving? No way, thank you.
You're right, we can't pay you though, yeah.
It's a real good time.
Yeah, if you could just repost
Well, I'd
that.
be kicking him, I'd be getting arrested. He'd be coming down because I'd be in a fight with some idiot.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy out there, but, yeah, so, that's all.
All right, thanks. Anyone else? No.
No.
Okay, we will close public comment. We don't have need for a non-public, but we could go into one to discuss things that may have come up at our meeting under RSA 91A:3, Part 2, Part C. If people.
Is that payroll?
Was it payroll?
Let's see, personnel, payroll?
Reputation.
It's reputation.
So if somebody wants to make a motion to do that, we can.
So moved.
If not, I don't care.
Second.
It's not gonna take
We'll
long.
roll call in. Mr. Wells? Yes. Ms. Marion, yes. Mr. Ruth?
Yes.
Ms. Hanneman?
Yes.
Mr. Winslow?
Sure.
All right, we're going to non-public.